got round to setting up kind of a more semi-permanent kind of home studio, and I wanted to make it, the idea was I want to make it as portable as possible. I've only got a very small area here, as a lot of people do, so I'm kind of working in a small area, kitchen, diner sort of area here, and I've got quite a nice area here looking over the garden, so I want to use that as kind of my home studio area that I can film in. And as I'm filming on my own, obviously I haven't got much space here for anybody else in any case, so everything's got to be very compact. Also needs to be taken up and taken down very quickly as well. And the other thing I wanted to make sure, I didn't really want a lot of leads, cables, etc. going around the place. Now the other thing I wanted to make sure was with regard to lighting. I obviously want to have adequate lighting. We'll have a look at that in a minute. But I also wanted to get away from hot lighting, and I'm using LED lighting here. We'll have a look at the setup here for that. And the reason I really like LED lighting, it's very portable. It can be run off batteries, which I'm doing here. Even though I'm at home in the home studio, I can do that. But the other big thing is it's cool. It doesn't heat up the room so much. When you've got a couple of very hot tungsten type lights, the heat is huge. Just standing here in a small area, it just gets too hot to operate in. For me anyway, I don't like the heat. And also then taking them down is a pain because you've got to let them cool down a bit. You can't put them straight away. And there's things like leads. You need lots of leads and stuff to plug in and blah, blah, blah. So I much prefer having an LED setup, which you'll see now. So you can see here in this shot, I think, I've got 3 LED lights. And I've got the main light here, which is 45-degree angles to me. It's pointing down and it's from above. The main reason for that is I want to make sure that the shadows fall down on the ground and don't fall onto the background there, which is kind of ugly. So I've done my best to do that. I've also got another one at 45 degrees the other way, which is around about half the power of this one, but it's around about similar though. Smaller LED light, and that's just giving me fill light on this side because I want it to be well lit myself in this area. And I've also done, and that's also pointing down a little bit. And finally, I've got a third one, which I find is very handy, pretty well on the ground, which points up, and that lights me up a little bit from below, and also all the area here a little bit from below. I quite like that look because it basically gets rid of shadows. I mean, if you've got a big gut or anything else, double chin or whatever, it actually does help in that regard, in that it gets rid of the shadow under there. My own gut is coming on quite well, so that definitely helps a little bit. And also it gets rid of any other lingering shadows around as well in the background, I find. So between those 3 lights, I mean, you can get away with just 2, but I quite like the 3 because it's easy to set up an LED pretty well anywhere. And with that, I mean, you're made effectively. I also use the LEDs, like I said, because I run them on batteries, and I'll show you those now. So I actually find batteries, although you have to recharge them, they're rechargeables anyway. They only take a couple of hours to recharge, and you've got total portability, total ease of use. You can put them away immediately. There's no sort of hassle at all. So that's what I like. I'm also not tripping over leads, etc. Now this is one of the LED lights I was using, and again, they're not expensive ones. This is a Aputure one. I've used the other one's a slightly bigger Aputure one. So these are the batteries. These are the NP series of batteries. It's quite a large one. These last for hours, these ones. I've also got attached to the front of this a couple of sheets of paper. Now one of them is a diffuser paper. It's a full diffuser, and it's a 250, I think, 250. And so that actually diffuses the light, because LED light can be very, very bright and very direct and very harsh. So I do it for 2 reasons. Mainly because the light's very harsh. When I'm staring at it, it can actually do your eyes in. So you can get someone with diffusers you can actually put on top of these things. This particular one hasn't, or I prefer using these ones anyway because I know what the strength of these ones is. And in addition, all I've done is I've put some Velcro on so I can easily just Velcro over the top of the light. I've done it for all of them. And then this other piece of plastic paper here is a pink colour, and this is really to get rid of, or try to start to get rid of the green that is often you find in LED lights. It's often a green hue is cast. It's often very difficult to get rid of it completely. You can definitely improve it a lot by putting on one of these filters which reduces the green in the shot. And there are different strengths. This is 1/8 strength. I find that, for me, that pretty well works most of the time. And although it can give the shot a slight pink tint, that's easy to correct in post afterwards. But even so, even a slight pink tint is a million times better than a green tint. And I find anyway, those two with Velcro on are great, and I've got them always in a bag ready to go. So with those things, all of the lights have the same covering, so they're all equal in that regard. So that's the lights. The other thing is regarding the background, etc., of your home studio area. You want to make sure it's tidy at least, and there are a couple of issues here you want to watch, which I've had to overcome in a certain way. Now look, if you're like me and I've got not much choice, I've only got a window here, and I actually like the window, I like looking out in it, and I quite like the background. That can cause a problem, mainly because you're dealing with outside light as well in your shot. So you've not only got to expose for yourself, you may have to try and expose for the outside, or it may well be the outside light will come in and destroy your exposure inside. It's quite strong outside light. We'll have a look at that shortly. So you've got two options. One thing you can do is you can try and get rid of the outdoor light. I mean, just using a blind like here, for example, I could just pull this down and that would solve the problem. I'd only have to expose then for myself and this area here, and that's fine. A lot of people, most people would do that. I actually quite like seeing the outside as an interest in the shot. So I mean, I would actually leave that open. And to make it easier to deal with the exposure outside and inside, I actually do a trick basically, which is I put on an ND filter. It's like a large plastic sheet, which is slightly dark. It's a ND effectively, which means neutral density, a bit like a pair of sunglasses. And I've just put a little bit of Velcro around there so I can take it up and put it up and take it down in literally a couple of minutes whenever I want to use it. And that basically darkens like a sunglass the view from outside. So it could be blazing sun now. It is a little bit late now, so it's a lot darker than it would be normally. But normally this is a south-facing window, so normally sun will be coming in here and shining against the window and the back garden, making it appear very, very bright. And that's always pretty well going to totally overexpose, and it's going to be very hard to get the exposure in here to match it. You'd have to have such a huge amount of lighting in here, it would be almost impossible. So the trick there is just to use one of these ND filters, and as I said, like a sunglass, covering the outside. I've also got set up on the camera itself an LCD monitor, you might see there, just because I'm a self-shooter and it's very handy for me to see what I'm shooting, whether things are in frame, whether it's actually working, what's happening, etc. So I use that a lot. That's actually on a 5D Mark III. On my 650D, you could also, without using that, you could obviously use the screen, the pop-out screen. I just find this size is quite handy because my eyesight's not fantastic and I can see the whole thing very easily from this distance. Now you can also see the distance between me and the camera. It's a small area, like I said, so I've got the lens on relatively wide to get this sort of shot. I could zoom in a good bit, but I like getting a bit of the background, etc. in the shot as well. I've also got the camera, I try to get the camera sort of just around about eye level or a little bit above, pointing down when I can. Just again, that gives a slightly, I think, a better shot than a strange angle maybe of underneath, which will look a bit weird. Also, if it gets too close to the camera, it can, and using a wide angle, it can get kind of distorted, the look, which I don't like. Makes everything kind of blown out, very, very wide. Again, for people, that's not a particularly flattering look either. So, from a point of view, the camera is probably around about 4 or 5 feet away from me. The other thing I use a lot, which I didn't used to, but I've just because I find it's easy for me to do, is I do now use a lot wireless mic, a lapel mic. Now, there's nothing to stop you at all in an interior to use a Rode mic or anything else wired into the camera. But I would suggest, even at this distance here, if you're going to use one of those, you want to be bringing the Rode mic closer, probably no more than about 2 or 3 feet away. It's just if you have it on top of the camera at that sort of distance, you're generally going to get a bit of echo in the room, and it's just not going to sound as good, the sound, as if you're using a lapel mic, or if you've got your mic via a cable much, much closer to the subject talking. The other way, you could also do it if you want to have the quality of a lapel mic, but don't want to have the spend on it, because they are quite expensive, the wireless ones, is to just use a hand recorder like a Zoom or something else with a lapel mic, so don't bother with the wireless side at all. Record as normal on your camera, just using the inbuilt, either the inbuilt audio microphone, or use a Rode on top of the camera, and you can later on sync the sound up and just use your handheld device's audio, which will be perfect, probably even better than the wireless, to be honest. But I find the wireless for me is very handy just because I can move around a lot, and I'm terrible at forgetting about cables, etc. The number of times I've stumbled through a cable and pulled everything over, I've just in the end I just got sick of it, and I find the wireless solution for me works, as does the wireless solution with the lighting as well, where they're all run off batteries. So that's the basic setup. I mean, it's not an awful lot to it. Again, for me, it's the main thing is portability, speed of setup, taking it down, just so I can use I don't have to then use that. This is a permanent studio non-stop. But I know I can get the gear up in probably around about 15 minutes and start shooting and then take it down again. So that's my take on it. I hope you found that useful, and thanks very much for watching.